The next one, right? Super sleeper, in my opinion. This is probably the best. Okay, the best. If someone asked me today, what should I get for PC, and I still want it to be an Xbox controller, it has to be the. Yeah, I get it. It's okay. What's up, guys? Welcome to a conversation about pro controllers featuring Mikhail Casanova, host of the Casanova podcast. What's up, man? What's going on?
Man, just chilling, man. Enjoying this end of the year. Took a little bit of a break off and recouping, strategizing for the new year, and just, doing what we do. We're chopping it up. It's always a good time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming through. We are chopping it up. I was actually at the library earlier, just planning and just thinking about what I was going to do for content heading into 2023. But I'm just excited to be here because I know that we've seen a lot of controllers this year. A lot of stuff caught our attention, and I have an order I definitely want to go by with the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And as far as promos and things that you have going on, we're definitely going to mention that before we wrap up for sure. So Mikhail Casanova, we got Pro BFG. We know it got delayed, right? It is the hot controller that everyone's been talking about. I have questions, and I'm probably going to do maybe a separate segment to answer questions that I've got in the comments about this controller. What did you like about it? You go first. You're the guest, and then I'll go. We'll talk about after that.
Okay. So what I really love about the controller, because me, I play a lot of fighting games on top of shooters, but being able to have the ability to put in a 6-button pad or not deep pad, but button inputs for fighting games like the old Sega Genesis and Sega Saturn controllers is absolutely insane. And one thing that they've done that no other company has made a fighting game centric controller is put micro switches within the buttons for the fight pad section.
For the fight pad itself, absolutely.
Yeah, like no company has ever done that. And one of what I love about it, outside of just that, is when you look at buying a competitive fighting game controller, there's usually a shelf life on that because that controller can usually only be used for specific instances of fighting games. But having a controller that has the modularity to go between being great for platformers, shooters, all kinds of games, fighting games, and just go back and forth and customize how you want it. It's amazing. Like it's my favorite controller and pretty much the only controller I want to use going for the time.
So I appreciate you sharing that. So I'm going to ask you questions, and then we'll give thoughts for sure. And then once we're done with that, we'll move to the next thing. The fact that it doesn't vibrate, did that bother you?
No.
Okay. Why? Why? Because that's a big point for a lot of folks. They're like, well, the controller doesn't vibrate. It does work fine for Halo on PC. Someone asked me that, so I'll just throw that in there just to answer that question right up front. The controller doesn't vibrate, and that seems to be a big thing for individuals who like that. I'm okay with it not there. Your take on that?
Yeah, So I've gotten that question a lot too, like, or not a question, but a lot of people complaining about that in my video about it not having the vibration, not having Bluetooth and all these other functionalities. And I mean, you want it to be more expensive? You're already getting a lot of bang for the buck.
It's $180. It's kind of expensive right now, right?
Yeah. Like, I get it. I get some people care about that, but the trade-off of not having all these additional functionalities on it, you got a better battery life for a wireless controller. That's just it.
So how often do you find yourself using the controller as a wireless controller versus having it plugged in on the line?
It's kind of it's a 25-75 in the sense of, for the 25% of the time that I'm in this room here, it's wired.
Okay.
But for the 75% of the time when I'm out in the living room or, we're out and about and I have my Steam Deck with me, it's being used wirelessly. So and I don't have any issues with it at all being wireless. Like when I was playing the Street Fighter 6 beta, I was playing it wirelessly, absolutely fine, no issues with it. Playing High on Life for Steam, no issues with it whatsoever. Like, yeah, that's the percentage for me.
Okay. It's interesting. For me, it's 90-10 wired. Isn't that crazy? I mean, for most of the time, I'm here in this room and I'm recording stuff here. I'm playing, on PC, so I just plug it into the PC and we keep it going. Now, on the vibration conversation portion for the Pro BFG, I didn't have an issue with it not having that capability, if you want to say that, because there is a small percentage, whether it's milliseconds or tilt, that happens when your controller vibrates and you're doing like a 1v1 versus somebody on either your Halo, your Destiny, your Warframe, whatever, right? When the controller vibrates, that affects aiming. And some people say, well, it's minor, and at least I'll have the option to turn it off, right? But here, I don't have the option at all. But if it is being branded and designed as a pro controller, then would you want the vibration there? So it's almost like a thought process of, what exactly are you getting it for? Are you getting it for, because you mentioned a fight pad and you were talking about that. Are you getting it for having all the things that a controller is going to have, like a Series 2, and be super heavy? Because from the list, and I did a video about that, a short about the weight of the videos, the Series 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is the heaviest from the C40, the Gambit, and the Pro BFG. So, like, what's your take? Do you have any more on that, on the vibration and how it affects, competitive scenes and things of that nature?
I mean, I don't really have anything to add to it because it's to me, it's a non-issue. It personally, but
Okay.
I can, like I said, I understand a lot of people want that functionality, but just to me, it doesn't. I'm in agreement with you because it does give that slight input delay because of the vibration functionality. I want the fastest response time, and lo and behold, when they did the Gambit, that was the fastest controller on Xbox with a processor built into it.
Right.
And then we got this, which is, for all intents and purposes, the PlayStation equivalent. And these are my go-tos. So,
okay. All right. So no speaker on the controller, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, because I want to go down the list because I'm sure you've gotten flack for it and I've gotten flack for, well, this is not really, this doesn't give me a lot of information about the thing. And on top of that, I pre-ordered it. It's delayed until whenever they announce, the new release date. So I really wanted to take the time to kind of go back and forth on things that I'm sure you got in your comments, right? And I got in my comments too. All right. So it doesn't.
I gotta ask you. Has anyone been in your DMs like asking to buy it off of you, like other content?
No, man. No.
Several.
Nah, it's not for sale. It's not for sale. But it is definitely a great controller, and I'm sure we can talk about, maybe we could wait on the Hall effects conversation a little bit later. We can wait on that. Okay. We can wait on that a little bit later. We'll talk about the controllers first. But no speaker, is that a big deal for a lot of folks? And what you've seen, from what you've seen?
A lot of people have brought that up in my comments, and I'm wondering who's really using the speaker on their controller. Because that's another thing that's going to be taken away from your battery life. Like, I don't know. Like, that one I don't get. Because every time, if I use, let's see, do I have one near me? When I do use the Dualsense controller, I turn the speaker off, mainly because I got my toddler with me, and I'm like, it's annoying when I'm playing and then I hear the sound come out of the controller. I'm like, okay, well, why are you distracting me like that? Like, it doesn't do anything. Controller. Yeah, I got a gaggle of controllers over here. There's like no speaker on this, so I don't understand what the what the complaint is. Why that's such a big issue. Who's using that functionality? Is that a high percentage or is it like a minority of people using it? I don't, yeah, it's weird to me.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's one of those things like, okay, if it has this, then it's a definite buy. If it doesn't have this, then that's the deal breaker, right? And I'm trying to figure out, even when we look at the feature set that we get in this controller, and yes, they did send it to me and they did send it to you too, right? From what I understand,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So we're not like overhyping. I think I need to mention this before we move on to the next thing. We're not overhyping the controller, but for the feature set heading into the next wave of what we see in 2023, I think it is a pretty good package. Now, I don't know who inspired, what we have today, especially with the fight pad situation. I don't know if there's other companies that started doing the fight pad and then they were like, hey, let's do it here for the Pro BFG. But I think that the result of what we got is pretty good. But I think I do want to speculate why the delay though, right? Like I want to hear your take on that, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Why do you think they delayed it when it seemed like it was ready to go when we got
it? That's something. Okay, so I'm gonna be completely honest.
We're speculating. This is not things that we've heard. Nope. I haven't heard anything. No emails. Yeah. No super DM, special connection, or anything like that. Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, go ahead.
So I didn't even know it got delayed until someone in my comments said it a couple of weeks ago. And then I started seeing more and more people saying, hey, it got delayed to January. Now it's delayed to February and such and such. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And then I was confused because from what you and I got, and I'm assuming other people got, from our usage of it, testing everything, it was set and ready to go. I don't really know what is the reason that it's delayed at all. I haven't even. I mean, the module. Are they going to add Hall effects? I know we're going to talk about that.
That's right. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, because if they do, that's a game changer, right? But that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But like there's nothing wrong with what I've experienced in my opinion, in my experience, right? That I like that controller a lot. And then if I'm not using that, I'm using Gambit. If I'm not using that, I'm using C40. If I'm not using that, I'm using Series 2 in that order, right? So even if Pro BFG wasn't there, it would be Gambit, C40, Series 2. Now, Series 2, it is most loved, most hated, depending on the circles that you have online. Any final thoughts on Pro BFG? And then we'll move on to the next thing. Any thoughts?
Man, if they do put Hall effects in that.
That's what I'm saying. It's a game changer. If they do that, that really changes everything.
Yeah. That's gonna be, oh man, the Wolverine V2 Pro and that Dualsense Edge.
They're gonna have a problem. They're gonna have a problem. Hard sell. Well, so right now, next thing that we have is the Series 2 by Xbox. For me right now, it's the heaviest controller, right? So I weighed them based on the standard parts that you would have on the controller, including the paddles, and the Series 2 won as the heaviest one that I have on my list. So Pro BFG, you have Gambit, you have C40, you have?
I have the C40, yeah.
C40, you have Series 2?
I don't have a Series 2. I had the Series 1.
Okay.
I've used the Series 2. One of my friends had it. I got to try it out. And for me, because
what did you think about it? What did you think about it?
I didn't like the weight. That was the biggest thing for me. I didn't like the weight, and I don't know, like it. I don't find myself using that level of a Pro controller wirelessly. So It didn't make sense for me because I had the Fusion Pro 2, I've got the Gambit, and I've got, I think, another one. So I'm like, I don't have a need for this.
Okay, so you mentioned Fusion Pro 2. Can you talk about that real quick? I don't even know what that one is. Which one is that?
That one's from Power A. So
okay, cool.
Fusion Pro
okay.
2. So that one right there is kind of like, it's got a lot of the functionality that you would get from the Elite Series 2.
Okay.
And it's just wired. That's the only difference with it. I think
Fusion Pro 2 wired controller for Xbox Series XS, black or white, $89.99 versus whatever the Series 2 is at price. Okay, so Series 2 price. I'm gonna look.
Me.
No, that's fine.
And they
Series
they
2
even made
price
one for the Switch.
That's dope. That's dope.
With battles. Yeah.
Series 2 is one. Is that right? Yeah, Series 2 is 180. Okay, so Series 2 is 180. The Fusion Pro that you just brought up, that is $89.99. And I've watched some YouTubers, they love the Fusion Pro 2. Right? So now that's not on our list, so we can add it right now. So between that one and the Series 2 by Xbox, quick thoughts on those?
I mean, unless you really care about having it wireless, Fusion Pro 2. That's
really
the only controller that made me put that down was the Gambit. That was it. But for like, because I got the first Fusion Pro.
Okay.
They sent that to me, and I love that. I had that for like 2 years. Then they sent me the Fusion Pro 2, I want to say middle or end of last year. Absolutely loved it. Like, it was, if I'm playing Halo Infinite, playing COD, I'm playing, well, I was playing the Battlefield game. I don't play it anymore. But like,
yeah. they'll get there. We're still praying. They'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I was playing those, I'm like, that was my go-to controller. And then
right.
got the Gambit. I'm like, it's light. But yeah, like the Fusion Pro 2, I mean, the just customization of it, sticks feel great, dead zones are excellent, paddles easily removable, easily, swap out. You can do your 4 paddles, do 2 paddles, however you want to do it. It's got programmability for your buttons. Like if you want to rapid fire, you can do that. Plus it's got the headphone input. So, I mean, for the price, because it's come down from what it was, but for the price, you can't go
wrong. Okay. So right now, Series 2 is like at the top of the list for weight, and at the bottom of the list for the choice that you would want to grab. It's weird because like based on the feature set. Now, to be fair, weight for some is not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And the ability to change the tension on the actual the analog sticks, I think is pretty dope, right, for a controller. But aside from that, the other conversation that comes up with the Series 2 is some individuals have gotten it shipped to them broken. Some individuals within maybe 1 or 2 weeks, stick drift, right? And then in addition to that, you have situations where the warranty is like 6 months or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But if it is 6 months and if it is under a year, then it's like you already know that you're going to have some challenges very, very quickly. And if you're really paying attention to how much time you have with the controller, you want to take advantage of that warranty as soon as you can before it runs out, because 2 years from what we've seen, right, tends to be a decent amount of time, right? For a warranty, 1 year is okay. I think the, what is it? The Razer, the $250 Razer coming out, I think it has 1 year from what I understand, right?
Yes. I'm looking at it.
Okay. So confirm 1 year, right? And
1 year warranty. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about 1 year. And again, excited to talk about Hall effects, but we'll keep that after we talk about all the controllers, right? Because that is the hot thing for these controllers. And we don't even have GuiltyKit on there. We don't even have 8-Bit Do. And those have either a standard version of the controller that has the Hall effects, and we'll get to that. All right, so anything else about this Series 2 and the Fusion controller before we go to the C40?
So I'm gonna throw a controversial take in there. I'm gonna say it's nothing bad. I'm gonna say that I would actually even put the Turtle Beach React and Recon controllers above the Series 2.
That's insane.
Because they may be budget pro controllers. They have a lot of cool functionality. I've got both of them. I like them. I gotta wait for a big sale for me to get a Series 2.
How did the Series 2 get so bad though? It's almost like globally recognized as something that is problematic. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, how did we get here? Is it because they're more focused on building the X and the S, and they're not necessarily focused on their controller? But this is a big product for them. You see what I'm saying? Like, how is it getting this rap versus controllers that are, even like something like a Afterglow Wave? You know what I'm saying? Like, that might get a better reputation than something like your biggest controller.
You love it.
Yeah, it's good, right? It's really good. Now, the only thing it's missing for me is it's an adapter to raise, the right side. But outside of that, I mean, it is really, really legit. So it's like, I don't know. How did we get here? Do we know?
I don't know. That's one of the things, like, even when I go to stores, like when I've gone to like GameStop and Best Buy out here, and I'm looking at what pro controllers they have, because I may miss something from like a newsletter or email or whatever I see on social media. So I go to see what's in stock, and when I kid you not, whenever I pick up an Elite Series 2 and there's like a worker around, or even sometimes other customers, they're like, "Yeah, you should probably." Like, nah, don't go with that.
That's
and
crazy.
Then I'm like, why? They're like, hey, you might as well go with the Thrustmaster. I think Thrustmaster has one too. They got like their own modular.
Yeah, to move. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and people are like, yeah, you're better off going with that. I'm like, really, Thrustmaster?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's wild, man. I don't know.
I don't know how we got here.
Okay, well, hopefully you guys know. Let us know in the comments. We don't know what's going on with the Series 2, but hopefully you can help us, just like talk through that and work through that a little bit. But I guess it is what it is. So the next one that we have is Astro's C40 controller. Okay, so now I want to jump into that, but I just want to ask a question before I jump into the C40. Okay, when you think about a pro controller, your perfect pro controller, what features do you have? Must have. This is your perfect, you're building a bear. Okay? This is your perfect controller. It has everything you want. What is that? What does that look like?
Well, you kind of said it earlier. I need to have the right stick be able to be raised.
Absolutely.
That's one of the big ones for me. The modularity with the sticks is the biggest thing for me. Trigger stops, number 2. I need the hair trigger functionality, and 3, which 3 can probably be at the top, but the lowest input latency, period. Because you need these controllers to be spot on. If you're playing Warzone, you're playing Destiny 2, or if you're playing Division or anything like that, you need the instantaneous response, especially Rainbow Six. So that's the 3 I'm looking for. Like, if it has wireless, cool, but it doesn't. That's not necessary. Rumble's not necessary either. Just putting that out there.
So we're stripping pretty much every major controller that's on the market right now, right? So I agree. Input is definitely a big thing. Weight, it doesn't have to be too heavy. So I think the average weight for the controllers that we love today ranges anywhere from 215 grams to 245, right? give or take, right? Anything over 300, we're like, it's a little bit crazy. Even so leading into that, I think the Astro is about 300 and something, right? But it's not heavier than the Series 2. So what's your take on that? I mean, it's been a while, it is plagued with its own issues, if we're fair. But in terms of a controller, what's your take on the Astro? I still love it, but what's your take on that?
It was one of the most comfortable Pro controllers I've used. I like the size of it, and the weight wasn't bad. I think the biggest thing that really confused me about it was the fact that they haven't made a successor to, because they had the blueprint right there. What the issues are. You can do some R&D and get that, worked out and get out a successor. Because, I mean, honestly, at the time when that came out, they had no competition on the PlayStation end, especially for the PlayStation 4, for that type of controller. Because you only could get the DualShock 4. That was it. There was no real third-party Pro competition. And it's a shame that they didn't jump on that. But I love the controller. It was my go-to for the longest. Well, until I got the Fusion Pro 2. Right. Well, the Fusion Pro was good, but the Fusion Pro 2 is just that's just a whole different. Anyways, but yeah, it was my go-to. I liked being able to use it wirelessly and wired, although I rarely ever used it wirelessly. And I mean, it had really good latency for wireless capability.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why they haven't followed it up. I think they should have, personally.
I think they should have also. It did have the speaker built in. I actually have it like right here. It is still, to me, a not necessarily a missed opportunity, because even if they were to say, hey, you know what? Because it's still good, even though there's, refurbished versions that you can pick up. There are other companies, like I think it was like a Beaver something. They made replacement analog sticks for it. You could buy, the ones from Astro, which was about like $20 or whatever. So I think even with what we have with this controller, it still competes against the ones that we have like today, right?
Yeah.
And that says a lot. That says a lot for a controller. When it came out, it was over $200, right? Or it was at least $200 when it came out.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. No, go ahead. You got it.
No, I was going to say, did I? No, it was about $200. I paid about because I bought mine. Yeah, it was about $200 when it came out.
Yeah, and it is
priced in.
They did, and they're getting ready to pay. They're getting ready to pay $200 for the Dualsense Edge. They're getting ready to pay $250 for Razer's, PlayStation controller. So I don't know. We're complaining about price, right? But you mentioned the Fusion Pro, which is $89.99, which is really good when you think of a controller that's offering you that much value, and it's being compared to the Series 2. I think that's pretty incredible in a lot of ways. So any additional thoughts on the C40 before we move on?
Astro, y'all need to make another iteration of it. Okay, I mean, we can get as many updates to the headset.
Right.
That's fine. You guys keep making updates to this. Cool. Make an update to the controller.
Right.
You have the blueprint.
They do. To be fair, I'm biased with Astro, but I want to be honest though, right? I'm biased, but I want to be honest. They do hook us up, right? We get a lot of love from them, but at the same time, I do agree that if they were to come out with a new version for the C40, they will still be tremendously competitive. But what they did do is they focused on the headset, because they came out with the recent 30s, right? Which is doing extremely well. So I'm not mad at them per se, because I still have access to the Astro C40. And in the event that the controllers, the thumbsticks fall apart, I can just swap them out. And that is $20 a year. Let's say they last a year. That's $20 every year. versus me rebuying a whole new thing, right? So I think that's fair that some controllers companies do that. So there's still a lot of value there for me for the C40. So those are my final thoughts on that. The next one, right? Super sleeper in my opinion. This is probably the best. Okay, the best. If someone asked me today, what should I get for PC, and I still want it to be an Xbox controller, it has to be the Gambit at this point. It has to be. It's just we're seeing how well this company Victrix makes stuff, right? Because I know you have their headset, you've experienced some of their things in the past, right? But when it comes to being focused on what they're doing for the fighting game community, you have to add the Gambit controller as one of the best controllers that we can see for Xbox and PC. What are your thoughts on that controller?
It's my go-to. That's why
it's so good, man.
It is like it's so good. I have two of them. Just like one still in the box. If this one ever goes down, that one's coming out of the box. That's just how good it is. For everything that I've used it for, racing games, shooters, even fighting games. I know a lot of people don't like playing fighting games on Xbox, but I can play it fighting games with it really good. It's an excellent D-pad. The craftsmanship for this controller is just superb to me. You know, I have literally no complaints about it. Response time, immediate. You know, I know that's the marketing line of it's the fastest.
And it does vibrate for those who are wondering. Yeah.
You care about that. No speaker though.
Right.
But you know, it's such a good controller, and it's the versatility of being able to use it on your PC, you know, and on Steam Deck for anyone who's curious about using it on Steam Deck. It works excellent plug and play on Steam Deck. I love that controller. Like it's just no, they're not paying me. In case anyone,
they're not paying. No, they're not paying us. They're not paying us to talk about these controllers, but it's definitely a conversation I wanted to have with you for sure, man.
I mean, and especially if you're in the competitive scene, you know, or you're playing competitively or even casually, and you just want a controller. I understand these pro controllers are not going to make you better at any of these games, but if you're looking for the best controller experience that you can get on a higher echelon, especially on Xbox and PC, you're not going to do better than the Gambit. The closest to it is a Fusion Pro 2. But even then, like with this, the modularity of it, to the extent that you can change out your faceplates. That's something you don't get with the BFG, but you know, if you want to change out your faceplates, you want to change out your D-pad, you want to change out the restrictors on the analog sticks or the gate, I guess, the restrictor gates. The height of your sticks, if you want convex or concave, you can switch those out. Trigger stops, I believe it's got 2 or technically 3. There's like an in between that's hard to get to, but you know, just the feel of it, and it's lightweight. You can't go wrong with it. That's my go-to.
So I want to do something starting from the first one that we talked about, right? So I have the Pro BFG plugged in right now. Can you show, if you don't mind, the back of the Pro BFG? Because it's a conversation about, you know, which buttons are much more flush. Is a Series 2 more flush than you know, this controller? Is the C40 more flush than that controller? Okay, so that's that, right? So I'll do it so we talked about that controller. We talked about Series 2. Now, Series 2, if I'm honest, in terms of what's happening here with these back paddles, they're pretty nice. They're pretty nice. I got to give it to them. They're pretty nice. Okay? Because I know we kind of like, we talked about them a little, you know, but those are pretty nice, right? So then from there, C40, right? Which has these buttons here. So I just want to share that with you, you know, for those who'll be watching and indulging in this video. And then now we're at
Pro. API
Fusion Pro, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
Too.
I dig that. Okay. Yep. Okay, that's different. That's different. And then now we're at Gambit, right? And it got a lot of flack because of the plastic that you have to remove to make it single or double. So it did get a lot of flack for that. But I think overall, if you had to rate the ones that you have by the back paddles, who takes the crown right now?
Fusion Pro 2.
Fusion Pro 2. Seriously. How come? Now you gotta give more than that, man. You gotta give more than that.
It's the closest. It's the closest to for me because I had the original Elite Series one. I love that, even though I had issues with it. It's the closest to it. It's the closest to an Elite Series. So if you're looking again, that's another bonus for it. If anyone's considering Elite Series 2 over that, it just feels right. And I don't know, like I guess I've seen people who've done reviews and talked about it say that they don't care for like the back paddles. You got to train yourself muscle memory to get used to that. But as far as like ones I've used, I absolutely love it. Like, and you have to apply enough pressure to it because you're not going to get accidental inputs on it. I know some people concerned about that with back paddles. You don't get accidental inputs with this. You literally have to put pressure to use these. But it's great. I love this.
Okay. All right. So the Fusion Pro, man. It's like the other sleeper, it seems. I may have to rethink what's going on with that. Okay. So any final thoughts on Gambit and what they're doing? Because that's definitely a go-to for me right now. Even before the Pro BFG, I was using a Gambit, so I kind of go back and forth between those two right now. Any final thoughts on the Gambit stuff?
I know I've gotten questions from my audience as to whether or not they're going to do a wireless variation, and my thoughts on that is there aren't any real third-party Xbox Series or Xbox One controllers that are wireless. There's a reason for that. I don't know what that reason is, but as it is, I think it's fine. But if you want a wireless variation, get the Elite.
Okay. I want to throw this one in there because I know you covered it. The arcade stick for Victrix that you recently, I believe you had a conversation on your channel about that. What did you think?
It's why all my other sticks are in storage right now.
Seriously.
It's that good. Like, so, okay, here's the thing. Like, before I even started working with Victrix, that was the stick that I wanted, hands down, because I would go to tournaments out here. And I went to Evo a couple of times, and like, I wanted the coolest looking controller with the absolute best input time and the easiest to mod, because a lot of these sticks are not easy to mod at all. Like, sometimes you gotta, like, some have easy access doors, others you gotta take it apart, and you know, if you want to switch out the buttons, switch out the gate. Like, this one comes with a square gate, which is just, you know, literally a square gate. But you can also put in an octagonal gate, which is good if you play 3D games like Tekken and Virtua Fighter. Just this, everything, the buttons, the Sawandshi buttons that it has, absolutely amazing response time. When I'm playing Street Fighter, I was playing Street Fighter 5, beta for 6. I was playing Tekken 7. Like, everything was just butter. Like, I love, this is the only stick that I use now.
Man, Victrix, man. Victrix is taking over, man. What's going on?
You know, and it's crazy because a lot of people will be like, oh, but it's PDP. And I'm like, PDP is no joke. This
right.
PDP from like a decade ago.
For sure. No, that's dope. No, that's dope. That's dope to hear. That's dope to hear. From what I recall, when I did the showcase with them here, that has the removable thing, right? You remove that, right?
And it comes with something no other stick comes with, and you can have a higher ball bearing if you want. And it's cool how it locks into place, because most sticks, when you're using them, after a while, the ball bearing will start to unscrew itself and the stick can come off. But this one has a secure locking. You grab it, you pull it up, place it in, and you're all set and ready to go. It's just, and it's secured. It's not going anywhere. And no other stick is like that. Even my second best stick, which used to be my first best, which is my Quamba Dragon Obsidian, that right there, even when I'm like heavy uses, especially at tournaments, I've had times when I'm doing all the input motions and then the ball top just comes off. And
that's
I'm
crazy.
like, all right, I lost that round.
That's dope. Yeah, Victrix, they're making some dope stuff, man, for sure. Now, the next few, and then we'll talk about Hall effects. So definitely add that. And so to me, this is the part where I've seen these things around YouTube, right? Around the internet streets. I do not have them in my possession. So I want to be clear, right? So Wolverine V2, I did reach out, whether, they say yes or no, doesn't matter, but I wanted to reach out. You never know. That's why you reach out. You just got to reach out, right? It's definite no if you don't reach out at all, right? So that's just the word on that. So Wolverine V2 by Razer, $250. PlayStation DualSense. I did see your average gamer, your average consumer, right? He did a video with that hands-on with them, and that video is gaining a lot of traction on the internet. And there was also an interview attached to that as well. So those two, and then any other last ones that we want to throw in, and then Hall effect conversation for sure. So Wolverine V2, Mikhail. Got BFG. Go ahead.
I know one person that has it.
Okay.
My friend Kevin Kinson, he has it now.
Okay.
He loves it.
Okay.
But as far as like the details about it, I know he's under embargo, so you can't really say a whole lot.
Okay.
But
how do you what do you think, man? How do you feel about it?
I mean, the last Wolverine I ever got from Razer, because I know they switched a lot of their people out for PR, so I don't really have a active working relationship with them now. But the last one I got from them was the original Wolverine, and I loved it. I love the micro switches on the buttons, the D-pad. I'm looking forward to that.
So now the triggers in the back, is it the inline in the center paddles in the back? Is it the new design, or is it the design that we're used to? Because the one for the Wolverine V2, it almost is at the center rear of the controller, right? But in order to add the additional technology on the bottom, they had to make the bottom fatter compared to the Xbox version current. I don't know if it's the same because I don't know Razer. Right. No, okay. So no paddles on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So and this is based on like videos I've watched. It's not because I have it here. So I just want to be clear. Okay. So the black V2, huh?
We know you got it.
No, I don't. No. So the Wolverine Xbox controller is you funny, man. I ain't messing with you right now. So that controller, right? The design on the rear of the new Wolverines is that the paddles are like straight at the center and of the rear of the controller, right? And the controller is $250. It has some incredible button input features, right? And any thoughts on any of that so far? How do you feel about it?
Like you, I've reached out to see if I can get one or not. The the paddles, that's going to take some getting used to. It for me if I do use them, because I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay,
To be honest,
that's fair.
That's going to require some more extensions to get that, but everything else on it, I like. I mean, I can't really say. The most I can say right now is from looking at it, I'm not the biggest fan of the paddles.
Okay,
but because I've used their controllers before, the micro switches and the D-pad, micro switches on the button, the tactile feel of them, I've always loved that. So I'm looking forward to that. Plus it having, because I think near me somewhere, right here. Okay, so it's going to be similar to this one, as far as like the D-pad and the buttons,
right?
And this is one of the best D-pads that I've used with micro switches and actuators in it. So if anyone's trying to use that for platformers or fighting games, it's going to be dope.
Okay.
It's that good. But I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing it's got speaker and microphone built into it too, I guess.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't
the conversation no, it doesn't. It doesn't. The conversation around this controller is very interesting to me. Even when you look at, if you search YouTube right now for this controller, this video is being recorded on the 29th of December. It's very light. The conversation that's surrounding this controller. The conversation would be either it's a neutral thing, right? Because they're waiting for the release before they do like a month later video or, 90 days later type of video. But the conversation surrounding this is very, very eggshelly type of videos, if you will. No one's saying anything bad. No one's saying anything too crazy. But I'm guessing between the weight of this controller, it's probably going to be between, if it's not heavier than the Series 2, is going to be Series 2, this controller, and then C40 by way of weight. If it is a heavier one, then it's going to be, this one, then Series 2, and then C40, and, everything else after that, right? So it is an interesting controller. Do I want it? Absolutely. I want all the controllers. Let's be clear. We're not saying that just because we have some gripes about what we're talking about, we still wouldn't want it in the collection. If we could have everything in the collection, we would, right? That's just the nature of the love for gaming and peripherals, right? But yeah, so I think that this conversation is very light surrounding this. I've heard that the thumbsticks are extremely loose, right? For that, and some individuals love that versus something that you can add tremendous tension on, right? I don't know if there's tension adjusters on here. I'm being fair, right? Again, I don't have it in-house here, but it is a conversation that we're trying to figure out, is this worth $250, right? Right? So we didn't really talk about GillyKit. GillyKit's controller does have the Hall effects, and I guess we can kind of like ramp up the Hall effect conversation. GillyKit controller has the Hall effects and $70. 8-Bit Do has it, and I think it's about $100 or under, right? Because they have two solutions, right? Then from there, I don't know if anybody else has it aside from your Steam Deck by way of an additional installation, but you have to pay $40 for that pack for you to get the option to switch it out for your Steam Deck, right? So
and you have to solder it too,
and you have to do that yourself.
So it's 70 for the 8-Bit Do.
Okay, so $70, right? So for $70, you get an incredible controller from a company that's been known to make dope controllers already, right? With everything that they already have. So you can guarantee that you're going to get something that's going to be there for a long time. So there's that. Any other thoughts on this one? I know we're still waiting for the word, right? The word that somebody does a full expose and even maybe a teardown, right? But it's been said that it doesn't have Hall effects in it. Not the moment of silence. That's crazy. That's insane.
I mean, if it's anything like how Razer used to be when I was working with them, they're kind of particular about certain things you say. Not in a bad way, but it's like certain way you phrase things, which is probably why a lot of people are tight-lipped about it.
We're not being mean. I don't think we're being mean.
No. A lot of people can confuse being fair and truthful with being more mean, but I guess that also lies into how you deliver it. I do think, and this is just me being honest, I think you're paying a Razer premium because of the name. That's from what I'm looking at with it. Okay, the micro switches, no one else is really doing that but them. That's great. I've used micro switches in controllers. I love them. They're not essential. Everything else that's with this, truthfully, I'm not seeing enough of a reason to get this over the DualSense Edge or the BFG. And this is $50 more than the DualSense Edge. And what, $80 more than the BFG? So unless you like Razer and you want the chroma effect and you want to use it with the Razer Axion software that they're pushing, that they asked me to write a review for.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for this one. That's it for this one. Razer, we're being fair. Okay. Because I'm going to timestamp these. We're being fair. All right. Shout outs to you. All right. So next thing we got is PlayStation DualSense Edge. I don't have it. Okay. But I've watched some videos. We did mention your average consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dope video. I really enjoyed what I learned from that video. And it is a PlayStation controller. I think that even when we look at the history of PlayStation controllers, and we can say from what we have already by way of the history, is that PlayStation 3 had Hall effect type technology in it, which is why they never really, messed up on us, right? And we can go back to the Dreamcast stuff, et cetera, right? So because it's a PlayStation controller, I just want it just for that, right?
Yeah.
Just for that. So I'll stop there. Thoughts on the controller, DualSense Edge.
So I've seen your average consumer's video on this. I thought it was dope. I love his style. Some of the other things I've seen and read about it is the battery life is slightly worse than the DualSense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The DualSense doesn't have the greatest battery life, but it's good for a gaming session. But once you go 4 hours, maybe 5, that's when you're going to need to top up on the battery. So if it's slightly less than that, and people are very careful about how they're wording that, I'm assuming maybe half an hour or an hour less battery. And when you really think about it, the reason the battery would be lesser is because of the modularity of the controller. They need the additional space for the modularity. I like the ability that, you can swap out the sticks, which is something Razer, what's going on? How come you can't do that with yours? Anyway, being able to swap out the sticks, they're finally putting in, the hair trigger stops, which you got 3 points of actuation with that, which is great, especially with haptic feedback. I mean, if you haven't experienced haptic feedback, folks, that's really cool. It can be a little annoying when you're playing shooters. You gotta get used to it, but that tension is really dope. So having that, they're also doing with their paddles. is going to be in a similar style as the Wolverine V2 Pro. So that's one benefit I will give to them, is the fact that it's in a position, which I'll show you guys here. It's in a position where I can easily touch it because it's more in a natural position versus me needing to put my fingers more so in the center. So I like the layout of that. Change out, yeah, you can change out the stick caps. That's dope. It's PlayStation.
It's PlayStation. And that's the thing. That's the thing, right? And I do agree, being able to switch out the thumbsticks is going to give it longer life. And so what did you think about the ability to lock your line in to the controller because it has the lock for that? What'd you think about that? What'd you think about that?
So them doing that means they've been studying Power A with the Fusion Pro 2, because that's a feature that's built into that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they studied that. I think that's great, especially if you've got kids, cheering. If you got children running around, or if you got spouses or drunk roommates or whatever, it's good. So if they trip, it doesn't snatch straight out of your control. I like that. That's something I wish more companies would do, because I don't think it takes a lot to put that in, and it's the way it even looks is very similar to the Fusion Pro. I wish I had it next to me, like the cable that I could show you, but it's very similar.
That's all good. It's all good. Yeah, PlayStation, we know and love. I still love the PlayStation controller. I don't even know how you would rank the D-pad, but I think that PlayStation 4's D-pad was great. I know Saturn's was great, right? So when you start thinking about some of the D-pads that we've enjoyed over the years, Gambit, BFG, done a fantastic job. When you're doing your show Ryukins, you're gonna hit those. You're gonna get those out, okay? For sure. All right. On some D-pads, I don't know, but on the Victrix stuff, you're gonna get that out. All right. But aside from that, I still would like to have a PlayStation 5 controller from PlayStation. I don't know if it's a Dualsense, but I do want one, right? Because they make great controllers. Now, the other conversation that comes to mind is symmetrical versus asymmetrical. How do you feel about that when it comes to, do you like your thumbsticks next to each other? Do you like them like the offset situation? Like what's your deal when it comes to that?
I can go either way, truthfully. Preferably I like offset, just because I feel like my hand rests more comfortably that way. But the way the PlayStation style is, I think because, you and I have used it for decades with that layout, I think it's kind of second nature. When we pick up a PlayStation controller, we know how to utilize it. But yeah, my preference is offset, but I don't mind the way it is.
Yeah, I think offset is really good. I enjoy offset pretty much on most of the controllers that I use. It's rare that I'll make it symmetrical, right?
Yeah.
But if I use like you said, if you use the PlayStation main controller, whatever that is, you just adapt to that, right? And it just works for it, and depends on what you're using it for as well. And I do agree with that. So we talked about Hall Effect a little bit here and there. So let's talk about that. Do you really care, or should we care that Hall Effects is a thing, right? Because the conversation came back up because of what GuiltyKit did in their controller. And then not too long after that, in my opinion, based on a timeline, I could be wrong, we saw 8-Bit do release theirs, right? And then that started a conversation about, okay, do we really need that? Is it, do we fix the problem, or do we allow individuals to keep buying parts to fix the problem, right? Because that's still sales over time, right?
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, do you say, hey, I'm going to give you the part that's going to work to the best of the ability for now, but later on, you're going to have to, do you want those brake pads to switch them up, often? Or do you want like your most expensive brake pad and rotors, right? So you don't have to change often. So like, how do you feel about that conversation with the Hall effects now?
Well, Nintendo needs to work with them because that stick drift and their Switch controllers is terrible. Okay, there's a couple of ways we can approach this.
Yeah, let's talk about it, man. It is a conversation that I think we should have. Do we really care? Is it gimmicky? Which we can say it's not, because it's keeping the life of the controller for a very, very extended period of time, right? So it's not gimmicky. We even have an add-on for your Steam Deck owner. So if you decide to solder with that unit that they have, you're done forever. You're one and done. And that system is going to last a very long time. Even the resale value, if you decide to do that, of that unit that has the soldered, if you even mention that in the description, that automatically, you're selling that right away, because so even thinking along those lines, or the lines that you're thinking about it right now, what's your take?
Okay, so I'll speak for myself because I can't say for you. In my position, because of the companies I work with and the frequency at which I get controllers, do I care if it has Hall effects in the long run with me having replacement controllers? No, because I always have an inventory I can swap out to something else. If I was purchasing a controller and I'm spending premiums that controllers are currently in comparison to like a decade ago, I want them to last. So I don't want to have to go through it. The reason why I don't use the Switch Pro controller anymore, just because of how I've gone through like 6 of them get stick drift within like 2 to 3 months of Mario Kart usage. So it's like, I can understand you're paying $70 for a controller and you're mad. And especially with these stores having 15-day return or 14-day return periods, these warranties, sometimes these companies don't fully honor them, or you'll have that one little thing that takes you outside of being able to have it warrantied out. So being able to either buy the Ghillie kit to install it in so you can have the Hall effect built into your controller, or being able to buy a controller like the 8-bit do, which has basically everything that you would need if you're a Switch only player and you want a Pro controller. I can't recommend you buy a Switch Pro controller over that at all. And the fact that controller has such universality, you can not only use it on your Switch, you can use it on your PC, and you can use it in either or Bluetooth or dongle. The fact that they give you that option, a lot of companies don't do that. But from a business perspective, for them, for Ghillie Kit and for 8-bit do, it definitely means that people are going to want to buy that, and you're going to meet that supply, that demand with the supply. And I've even noticed when I was looking at getting an 8-bit do controller, that particular one was sold out quickly.
They make good controllers, man.
They do. Like that particular one was sold out so quickly across the board. Amazon, Best Buy, you name it. But if I'm also if I'm not them and I'm making controllers and I want you to keep buying it, I'm not going to put it in. Because it's like, okay, yeah, we can put that in. But if our main thing is controllers, you're going to buy this. Are you going to buy more? No, because you got one that's going to last you. So I there's a lot of ways you can look at it. Like I like it. I definitely want to put it in my Steam Deck, but I don't know how to solder, or I don't know how to do it very well. So I don't. And not only that, but once you put it on the Steam Deck, you also got to do download the drive. You got to do all this configuration setup. So it's a process. I just wanted to be to the point where I can just swap it in and out and be done with it. But yeah, that's my.
I think, no, great. I appreciate all your thoughts there for sure on everything you've shared already. I think that swap solder situation is worth $80 extra if you were to sell that unit. If someone did that solder thing, they paid $40 for the unit to solder onto the Steam Deck, and they decide to sell it, I would add $80 just on the strength of that alone, right? So I believe, based on some research, and it's not accurate, the install base for PlayStation right now as a whole is over 100 million folks, right? So if half of those individuals, okay, pay $20 a piece, $40 a piece per controller for the replacement, if they get Dualsense and dude, you know, it's millions of dollars that they're getting just off the $40 because people will want to replace them by pairs. So even just the math on that as a company, they're making so much more money after the initial $200 spent on a controller. So I could see why, as you were sharing, companies may not necessarily want to jump in and do that Hall effect swap, because I can get so much more money from the loyal individuals who are going to buy the $200 controller anyway, use it for whatever, you know, adventure, fighting, et cetera, burn it out, be like, hey, these latches, all I have to do is pull these latches, take them out, spend $40, get a brand new controller again. It's a moneymaker, man. It is a moneymaker from that perspective. So it's like, why would I want to do one and done? Now, if your company can't provide that right away, then you'll do what companies like 8-Bit Do has done, right? You're like, hey, we're going to give you this value because we see where the trend is going, and we like that. So you know that we make dope stuff anyway. You're going to come back with any new thing that we put out based on that thing, right? So it's like, it's a approach like that versus what the other companies are doing that allows you to unlatch or, you know, take out the screws and take the thing out and put it, you know, whatever. I think it's an interesting conversation, man. I like what I'm seeing, but I do believe, and, you know, we could be wrong here and there with a couple of years, that most of the controllers are going to either provide a solution or have the solution already built in, right? And we see that with what Steam Deck is doing, what GuiltyKit has done for Steam Deck. I'll say it that way.